Hi everybody, it's Miss Greta, school-based occupational therapist. In today's video, we're going to talk about sensory integration and sensory input that a child or an adult is exposed to all day long, and taking this information, processing it, and doing what needs to be done with this information. It's a child's processing of and their response to all sensory information in the environment. Now, even as adults, we all have our own personal preferences, things that help us calm, help us relax, and help us concentrate. Some examples are sometimes you might need a cold drink of ice water or iced tea to kind of help wake you up, and other times you might need a warm drink, either to help wake you up or to help calm you down. Some people like music when they're trying to write a paper or do something like that, while personally I prefer silence when I'm trying to concentrate on anything. Sometimes you want people around you to socialize and to just kind of help you feel good about things, and other times you just want to be left alone. So these are some examples of how you know personally what works for you and what kind of sensory input you use to work best in a particular situation. We are constantly being exposed to a variety of input in our environment. Sometimes we don't even realize it. There's a clock ticking in my room right now, and I can hear it now because I mentioned it, but typically I wouldn't even register that. So what happens with this sensory information is our brain takes all this information in that's constantly happening. We organize this information properly, we process it, and then we respond appropriately. We know there's the 5 common senses that we've all heard about and learned about our whole lives: touch or tactile sense, hearing, smell, taste, and your visual sense. Additionally, there's 2 other senses that I'm going to talk about today. The first is our vestibular sense, and I'm sure some of us have heard of this before. This is our body's sense of movement and gravity. Our vestibular system ties all of our other senses together, as well as tying together the moving parts of our body. If we're on a swing or we're going down a slide or we're on a ride at an amusement park, our vestibular sense needs to take in all these changes and make the proper response that our body needs to do. It ties together the moving parts of our body as well as all our other senses, like I said. Bilateral integration is using 2 sides of our body together simultaneously, and this is also related to our vestibular sense. Some individuals and adults may need to move more in order to get this input into their body and help organize all the other sensory input coming in and process things and additional input more efficiently. Sometimes people need to slow down a little bit, and this is how we learn as we mature and develop these systems to process all this information. The next sense I'm going to talk about is proprioception. And this is essentially the sense of self-movement and body position. It's our being aware of our body position in space and utilizing input to our body in the way of feedback, pressure, and movement. Equilibrium and balance are also related to proprioception. An example of proprioception might be asking a child, which I do sometimes, to close their eyes and write their name. Or have them close their eyes and I would move one arm and they need to move the opposite arm and do the same thing that I did. This is your body's internal sense of proprioception and knowing your body position at all times. So like I said, basically we need to integrate all of this incoming information, as do students who are still developing some of these systems, from our senses, in addition to movement and body position. And this is all used to smoothly and accurately function in everyday life. and execute all our performance areas and activities. So something as simple as writing your name or copying something or doing some kind of activity in gym is taking in all this stimuli and organizing your body to elicit the proper response. Although some children might have difficulty at times with processing this information, and their gravitational awareness may be decreased at times or be still developing, and this might make tasks such as playground equipment or uneven surfaces difficult to navigate. One research study that I found about sensory information interviewed teachers and other school personnel in a number of elementary schools. And as per survey and open comments, they identified 161 different means of sensory input that children could experience in one school day. From sounds, like I said, the clock's clicking in my room. There might be a light or a fluorescent light in a classroom or a heater that's running that most people can just filter out. But some children still need to work on filtering that out, and that's all they can concentrate on. So then that's taking away from them needing to do what they do in the classroom. Different smells, the cafeteria, the sounds in the cafeteria, that could be overwhelming for myself as well. Lights, different lights in different classrooms. Some teachers might use lamps. Some teachers need to have the fluorescent lights on. So that might be processed differently by children. Items hanging from the ceiling is something that maybe most people can focus on when they need to, but they can't block it out when they don't need the information. And also to navigating around the classroom. All of this sensory input relates to the level of alertness or arousal of a child during the school day. And this also is integral to successful performance and expected tasks. A normal sense of arousal or paying attention is essential for success and control. Although some children might be under-aroused and they might not be able to process this information, and some children might be over or hyper aroused from this information, and it's a distraction to them. So we need to find the perfect balance for all this sensory information. The most important thing that we can do for our child, and even ourselves as adults, is to match the child and the exposure and give them a variety of activities and tasks that allow the child to experience and participate in a large variety of sensory input. Children with special needs or disabilities are more likely to have difficulty with processing this information and integrating all this sensory information. However, research studies have shown that a small percentage of children, even without disabilities, and adults may show some needs with sensory processing or knowing how to manage this sensory input appropriately. Even as adults, sometimes we might have a pair of shoes on, or a shirt or a sweater or jewelry that bothers us all day long, and we can sense it more than we probably should. So when we get home, that's the first thing that we take care of, because it's something that was, interrupting our thought that day or distracting us sometimes from what we needed to do. The bottom line is, however, that in the preschool years, through kindergarten and the primary grades, and even up through being an adult, we are always taking in so much information. And kindergarten in itself is a very busy time, and there's so much extra stimuli that children are learning. So they need to learn how to take this information, process it, and utilize it appropriately for praxis or motor planning, which is learning new tasks. And there's so many new tasks that they need to learn. Children also need to integrate their motor skills, which I talk about in other videos, in combination with task initiation, organization, and sequencing in order to develop these age-appropriate skills, play, and performance areas. So we want to help children get movement and experience a variety of sensory input from many different areas. And this will assist them in integrating all this sensory information. Throwing, catching, jumping, Bouncing on an exercise ball is going to give them gross motor as well as vestibular sense of input. Jumping jacks, again, movement, but also gross motor. Walking briskly, hopscotch. Playgrounds or swing sets are really good examples of things you can do with your children. Obstacle courses. And then some of them, if they kind of have like a tactile, they don't like to touch a lot of things, you can do supervised water play in a big bucket with cups. You can do a bucket of sand or a bucket of beans and hide stuff in them and have them find it. Riding a bike is good. Folding laundry, anything that's using their body together in different movements. Also taking a rolling pin to get that pressure and rolling that on the floor is a good one. And also shaving cream, the white shaving cream, not the shaving gel. You can put that on a table and have them write shapes or their names into that just to get them to used to touching different textures. And also heavy movement activities that provide pressure to their whole body are also great for that sense of proprioception. And things such as vacuuming, pushing or pulling a sibling in a wagon, carrying items for you around the house, carrying up a load of laundry in a basket, carrying groceries, washing the car gives a gross motor movement, but also proprioceptive input into their larger muscles and their hands. Carrying the trash out, you can make this work to your advantage. And also wheelbarrow walking. Remember old school relay races with the wheelbarrow walking where you held a child's leg? That is a great activity to provide deep pressure into a child's joints, as well as crab walking, which is kind of upside down walking with your arms and your legs and your stomach facing up towards the ceiling. These are just some examples, but they're so important. And if children are having trouble with some of their senses and processing sensory information, then doing some of the activities can only help them integrate this information. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me. All right. Goodbye.